Hi, everybody. The format is that I'm supposed to say something for a while. Is that the way it works?
Yeah.
Okay. For 21 or more years, my wife and I lived here full time. We moved from Arcadia, California, where we lived in the same house for 27 years and raised our children. We have 3 children and 12 great-grandchildren and 12 grandchildren and 3 great-grandchildren. So we're kind of busy sometimes during Christmas and birthdays. We'd always had a house out here in Palm Springs prior to moving out here 21 years ago. And we had always known that when the children left the house and we had our opportunity that we were going to come out and live in the desert. We love the desert. And so that's what happened. And we lived in Palm Springs for a while and realized that we wanted a golf course and we wanted a little bit of peace and quiet and solitude, and found Mission Lakes to fill all of those needs, and that's why we moved here. I've been in banking my whole life after the military, and was with Union Bank, United California Bank, for those of you that remember that in California, Security Pacific, and was with them for a long, long time, and was a senior credit officer for an independent bank in Downey, California, executive vice president and a director of the bank. And I had decided that enough for the executive positions. I got tired of it and tired of actually the legality with the FDIC and dealing with them on a daily basis got to be very difficult. So we came out here and I kind of cut back a little bit on what I did for a living and started to do the things that I love to do the most, and that is be an officer, a commercial loan officer, working with businesses and so forth. That's what I've done. I worked with Union Bank here in town. I worked with California Bank and Trust. I worked with Valley Independent Bank. Now it's Rabobank. But I worked with them over the 21 years that I've been here. And I retired 5 years ago. Stayed busy, staying active with the club. 15, 16, 17 years ago, I was on the finance committee here, and dropped out for a while, and off of committees. But for the past 10, 12 years, I've been on the men's club board in some capacity or another. And once I retired, I decided to get active with the board, with committees again. And I got on Declaration Committee for a couple of years, and then I got on Greens. Now I'm chairing the Green Committee, and the board saw that I had some expertise in golf and some other maybe management skills, that they put me in charge as the chairperson of the ad hoc committee for the master plan for the golf course. And so I've been busy. I think I'm busier now than I was when I was working, but it's a great busy. I love this club, and I can't tell you enough. It's the greatest place in the world to live, and the price that we pay to live here is incredible, and I think management has really turned things around in the last couple of years with a new general manager, which I've worked with many times on many projects as chairperson for the member guest committee for the past 6 years. I've had to deal with several general managers in the process, and this one seems to be the easiest and best to work with. I don't know if I'm rambling on here or not, but this is who I am, and I want to continue. My objective is to continue the process of maintaining a great club that we have, making sure that we're financially viable and that financial keys are kept, and that we can have one of the best neighborhoods in the desert. And I think that the process that we have about getting into committee members and new directors, I think is a great way to keep things viable. And I think that I'm pretty easy to work with. I don't tend to have a good ear sometimes, that's what my wife says. But other than that, I think that I can bring to the board some history and some financial background, having been in banking and management, that would help maintain a great neighborhood that we live in, Mission Lakes.
Richard, all candidates expressed interest in cutting spending. How and where would you cut spending?
Cutting spending. I've been on the Finance Committee for a number of years, and I attend as many financial committee meetings as possible. I understand the necessity of a budget. I understand the necessity of a variance report. I understand the necessity to have department heads responsible for their budget and to be accountable for the numbers that they put in every year as they go forward. And the cutting expenses comes from establishing a fine-tuned budget process and following the variance reports and variances on a monthly basis, and having the department heads accountable to the board, accountable to the general manager, and to all of us as to why things have changed. Some things are beyond our control, and just no different than our families. A hot water heater blows. Oh my gosh, I didn't even know that was going to happen. Things happen, and accountability, I think, and watching the variance report and starting with a great budget. I think if we can do that on an annual basis, we can keep expenses down and prevent a real bad bump in the road.
Richard, how would you maintain and improve club facilities, and which improvements would you give priority to?
Oh dear, you got an hour? As chairperson for the master plan for the golf course, I'm not going to make this a long story. The golf course needs repair. The golf course needs upgrade, and we have neglected this golf course for over 40 years. It is the biggest asset the club has, no question about it. I don't care if you live on the golf course or not. The value of your home is predicated upon the strength of our assets, and our biggest asset is that golf course. Now, 10 years ago, I was on an ad hoc committee, over 10 years ago. Jerry Shackelford, Norm Hunt, myself, Tony Stanek, Miller was on, and a couple of other people. And the board asked us to devise a plan to show how we can improve the golf course over a 5-10 year period. We did. And it was comprehensive and it was in detail. We gave it to the board, and the board said, yeah, thanks. And that's what happened to it, nothing. Now we have an opportunity to improve this golf course, which is very close to my heart because of the involvement I am with the architect and the board and the pro shop and the members that understand the value of the golf course having and needing some repairs. It's no different. That golf course is no different than your home if you bought it 40 years ago and you're still living with green shag carpet and you're still living with avocado green appliances. I'm serious. This golf course needs help. You cannot have a farm and grow cotton without cultivating and refertilizing the soil. This soil needs help, the golf course needs help, and see, I told you I was going to take an hour. I have a real passion for this golf course, not because I play it, not because I see it out of my backyard, but I understand how valuable it is to each and every person that lives here.
Okay, how do we encourage people to vote when ballots are sent out, even if they have to just check off quorum, so that we do not have to incur extra expense, which can run more than $3,000 by resending the same ballots?
Quite honestly, I'd forgotten what I put down in my application for accomplishments and goals. Not that I don't care, it's just that I tend to ramble on and my thoughts kind of go in different areas sometimes. But it's funny that you should bring that up, because I actually put down that in goals and accomplishments was to ensure and protect the financial well-beings of our club. In addition, we need to find sources and to solve the problems for low member voting participation. I see that as, this question as having really centered on what I think is a really critical issue. Boy, I wish I knew the answer, but you know what? There is no, I don't think anyone right now has an answer to that question. But what we need to find out, we need to go through a process. Maybe it's internet, maybe it's, I don't know, but we've got to get our community involved. And I don't mean just listening to the people that always squeak loudest and say and aren't proud of being here, I guess. But we need to involve the people that live here, that just take us for granted, and get them to vote on critical issues that happen all the time. I wished I had an answer for it, but it's one of my goals to accomplish as a director, to help solve that problem.
Okay. Time for questions.
Hi Richard, how are you doing?
Hi.
So I'm trying to ask the same question to all of the candidates, and so far I've been lucky, yay. In your candidacy, I'm sure you've been talking to a lot of members, people that use the golf course, those that don't use the golf course, hopefully, those that come up and use the clubhouse. But in your talking with these members, what is one of the number one concerns today of our membership, and how would you solve that? Not your personal agenda, the members' concerns.
Well, that's an interesting question. I'm not sure. I've not gone around and polled anyone to ask them that type of question, because I'm not a director.
No, what are they asking you in your candidacy? What are their concerns?
You mean since I've
Been running
has someone come to me and said what their concerns are? Am I going to them? You know what? And that's why I put what I did down. Financial security for the club, I think, is the primary issue. They want to make sure that we're not overspending. They want to make sure that money is being spent wisely. They want to make sure that there's a viable financial strength here. And I try to assure them that a lot of that is attending finance committee meetings, finding out where the money goes, how it's spent, and what departments are using the most of it. I can only relay something to you that I'm not sure this is an answer to this particular question, but it's an important fact. The fact is, in the 20 years that I worked in the desert here working for banks, I can assure you that over that length of time, there has been over 25 homeowners associations that I have been banking-wise responsible for. And those HOAs include everything from Marrakesh to the Vintage to even smaller units, but major big companies and smaller HOAs, including Desert Princes and some of those. I can only say, except for the vintage, that we're probably one of the strongest financially secure HOAs in the desert, our size. You know that? And I can only say that because of the size of our reserves and the budgets that we maintain and the variance reports that we do on an annual basis. So maintaining that and the strength of our neighborhood is important, that we continue that and put things into place that protects us in the future. That's all I can say.
Playing off that, Richard, real quickly, we got a restaurant that is hemorrhaging money.
I'm sorry, is what?
Hemorrhaging money.
Yeah.
If you look at, in real dollars, they start the year with $250,000 from our food minimum and lose an additional $160,000, which is over $400,000. Is there anything that you have as far as a plan to correct that? And is there anything that's off the table as far as you're concerned?
Wow, I'm going to probably lose some votes for this response, but let me tell you how I feel about this. We do not have a restaurant here. No club, no HOA has a restaurant. They have a food service department that is in place to accommodate existing residents, period. It is a restaurant, a personal restaurant is designed by location, advertising, history, chef, ownership, and the ability to make money. Our restaurants at an HOA are not designed specifically to make money. For example, I went to the Reserve to play golf one day, and I was there with a guest, and I had a forward caddy, and I'm sorry? Oh, I'm sorry. And we had a forward caddy, and we had a really great afternoon. And we made the turn, and the guy that was a member there at the Reserve said, "Hey, do you want to have something to eat or buy a snack?" I said, "Sure, let's do that." We made the turn, went into the restaurant, and standing there was the maitre d', the chef, two best boys, and nobody else in the restaurant. They were waiting for somebody to come up and order some food so they could go to work. That is their restaurant. Now, can that restaurant make money? No. And that's not what we're here for. But what we can do is, again, go back to what I was saying, and that is have the food service people responsible for spoilage, for are they buying the right things at the right time? Are they, what food they are serving, is it this food that we want to eat? Is it being served at the times that we want to eat? Is it open? There's so many things we can do to listen to us, listen to the people that live here, and say, and the board and the food service and food and beverage need to make adjustments as things occur. I mean, they cannot afford, the less money we lose, the better. And if you want to arrange our food service to make money, ain't gonna happen. Ain't gonna happen.
Thank you, everybody.